trailer, Deadpool Wolverine. Excited to check it out. I hope you are too. And excited that it is a brand new week here in New York City. It is spring break for a lot of folks.
I'm gonna come.
I'm sure a lot of people are excited. It's Earth Day. What's up? It's Earth Day. I hope you are all... Whoops. What the hell am I doing? Not yet. Not yet. It's Earth Day. Be kind to our planet today and every day. All right, enough my yapping. Let's get started. 51 degrees out here in New York City, 9 after the hour. Coming to you live. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Coming to you live on this Monday, April 22nd, the year of our Lord, Jesucristo. Like I mentioned, it is spring break for a lot of you folks out there. Hopefully you're enjoying the first day of your spring break. It's also Earth Day today and every day. But today is the official calendar day for Earth Day. So hopefully you are being a little bit kinder to the Earth and the planet that you live on today. More so, I guess, than you would any other day. I don't know. But anyway. But I also hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Hopefully you had some time to relax, chill out, do some things, get some things done. We'll talk about my weekend and all that stuff in a little bit. Yeah, just a lot of stuff to really cover this morning. Basically, the brand new trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine has come out, dropped this morning, literally like an hour right before I went live here. So I will be doing a live reaction and review of the trailer. Excited to check that out for sure. Also, some interesting news dropped in the last couple of days and announcements. We have another long-standing YouTube channel announcing that they're gonna take a step back and take a break. And this one is someone I actually really also enjoy, just like Watcher. When they announced their thing on Friday, this person has announced that they are gonna be taking a step back, and that is good old Nick Caruso of the Gaming Historian. So we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But yeah, so it's going to be an interesting morning to be talking about a lot of these things and a lot of these topics. And of course, weekend box office. Civil War is still doing really well. Beat out Abigail, which I thought wouldn't be the case because I always, every time there's a brand new horror movie that comes out, and one that looks as interesting as Abigail, you would think that would rule the box office this past weekend, but it didn't. It got beat out still by Civil War, so that's really interesting to see there. So a lot of really fun, interesting, cool things to check out and to talk about really today. So I'm really excited. But obviously the number one main topic here and main thing to go over is the fact that we do have ourselves a brand new Deadpool and Wolverine trailer that I'm really excited to check out. And I can't wait to see basically what this trailer looks like. And, what are we to be expecting in this movie that I still say to this day is probably the most anticipated movie of the summer this year. I dare say that it is probably the most anticipated movie of the year. I kind of do my predictions every year where I kind of name the one movie that will stand out above all other movies during a given year. For 2 years in a row, I've been 100% accurate. I've guessed that Top Gun Maverick was going to rule the box office that year it came out, and I was right. And I also predicted that Barbie was going to be the #1 blockbuster hit of the year last year, and I was also right. This one will also be that for this year. And given that it's the only Marvel movie we're getting this year, then it has a lot of stuff riding on it. And hopefully it's going to usher us into this new era of the MCU. It's going to open up the doors and the floodgates for mutants and X-Men. They're saying that this is not Deadpool 3. This is not like an official Deadpool 3, that this is more of, think of it like a Hobbs and Shaw when it comes to the Fast and Furious franchise. Think of it like, I guess I would say Civil War, which was supposed to be like Captain America 3, but in all reality, it really wasn't. It was just another side quest with the Captain America moniker on it. So just a lot of interesting things there to really think about when it comes to this movie. And it's going to be, again, a lot of eyes are going to be on it and a lot riding on it. So what we got from the teaser from the first go around looked fun and interesting, and it really felt very Deadpoolish, very Fox movie like, which is great. And hopefully that's really what the movie's going to translate to when it finally comes out. So without further ado, let's check out this new Deadpool and Wolverine trailer here. Brand new full trailer. So I'm really excited to check it out. Let me switch screens here. All right. Let's get ready. Let's go nuts.
I told you, you're not welcome here. You're not welcome
a
anywhere.
familiar bar setting. We've seen Logan in many times.
Just give me one more drink and then I'll leave.
There he is.
Hi, Peanut. I'm gonna need you to come with me right now.
Look, lady, I'm not interested.
A lady.
All right, well, I'm sort of on the tick-tick, so upsy daisy. Here we go. Oh, whiskey dick of the claws. It's quite common in Wolverines over 40.
You don't want this.
Unless
Oh,
you
that's
want to
interesting.
take breath through your fucking forehead, I suggest you reconsider.
What era Wolverine is this? This is not Logan, like last man Logan, right?
I'm about to lose everything that I've ever cared about.
Not my fucking problem.
Is that what you said when you're
He does look great in that outfit. Is this the Madonna song? Like a Prayer?
Wolverine let down his entire world.
Oh. Oh, this is an alternate version Wolverine. Okay, I see what they're going with.
Want to talk about what's haunting you, or should we wait for a third act flashback?
Go fuck yourself.
There's the F-bomb. Nice. Yep, I knew it was Madonna. I was like, this is Madonna. Like a Prayer. Oh, he's got golden guns. Love that. Also, I'm going to try to... Oh, Liefeld. Rob Liefeld, tribute to Rob Liefeld in the back there with the Just Feet.
The X-Men.
Also, what, East Side's Pharmacy? Okay.
Soaking wet right now.
It sucks that they have to have this copyright music going on, but... Ooh, who's that? Oh, man. This looks like a lot of fun.
Boys are so silly.
Who is that? Am I supposed to know who that is? Is that Ant-Man? Oh my god, it's a dead Ant-Man. And there's Deadpool Dog, right? Cool Dog, Dead Dog. Who is that? God, I'm gonna be racking my brain on that.
Let's fucking go.
They're not afraid to drop. Oh, they're going through a portal. Oh, is that like a... Oh, is Doctor Strange gonna be in this?
Want to do some cocaine?
Hey, cocaine is the one thing that Feige said is off limits.
What about Bolivian marching powder?
They know all the slang terms. They have a list.
Even snowboarding?
Even disco dust.
White girl interrupted?
Even force bump.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Yes. But I can't.
Nice. Nice. LFG. Let's fucking go. That's right. Wow. Okay, there's a lot to talk about in this whole trailer. I feel like they dropped a good amount of Easter eggs. I don't think this is the Wolverine that we are familiar with from the Fox universe, from the X-Men movies. This now, I'm starting to feel like this is an alternate reality Wolverine that we're getting here, like another dimension. Also, the fact that we get a portal appearance. So is Doctor Strange going to be in this? It's going to be really the him or Wong, right? Because isn't Wong still pretty much the Sorcerer Supreme in the current MCU, right? So a lot of interesting things to really go over when you think about it. So let's. I'm gonna go through and skim through this and just kind of like see if there's anything I can pick up that I may recognize. But obviously, there's going to be a lot of things that I'm not going to know. But this bar setting, I feel like we're back in Canada. I feel like this could be like another bar in Canada or whatever. He doesn't look old enough to be Old Man Logan. So I don't know if this is that time period or if this is before that time period. It's kind of hard to see or hard to tell, really. But he's not, he doesn't have like the gray and the gruff like he did in Logan. So it's interesting to see that there. Obviously they have their back and forth. He's having a problem with his claws. I don't know if it's because we I feel like we've had similar instances in the Logan movie where a lot of his functionalities weren't functioning that great. So I wonder if it is similar to that. Like, is this the moment that is leading to what we get in Logan, the movie Logan, the James Mangold Old Man Logan storyline? Or is this just, again, like I said, another alternate dimension Wolverine that we're getting here? So I love I love the butt of the gun here. Smile, wait for the flash. I don't think that was ever there before, right? I don't think he had a gun like that before. I think that's pretty cute. I like that. Let's see here. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I can comment on, really. Obviously, Wolverine is going through some sort of crisis, some, come to term crisis and all that. It does feel like he is stuck in a universe where the Marvel characters that we are familiar with and that we know are wiped out, and this could be a significant moment in that timeline and why they ended up there. And the only reason why I said that is because why is it when they're in the TVA, right? He said, they said this Wolverine, this Logan, let pretty much everyone down in his universe, in his version of the Marvel universe, right? And a good way to really note that is if you fast forward here, and I want to see that that crazy shot of the giant Ant-Man who's basically just dead and a skull at this point. And you see like his helmet kind of open up and reveal himself. The action looks great. We didn't get a lot of action here, or at least nothing too new from what we didn't get from the first one. See, look at this. This is freaking nuts. You see the giant Ant-Man there on the ground, right? And you have this crazy dust cloud pouring over. But, like, what exactly is happening here? All right, this is the shot right here. So this is where you see basically the helmet open up, and you basically see the skull of giant Ant-Man, right? Which is insane. And then I'm trying to see if you could figure out who these people are here, because it looks like we have Lady Deathstrike right here in the forefront here. That, I mean, you could tell by the fingers and all that. That's Lady Deathstrike right there. I don't know if I can recognize anyone else here. In a way, this one here, she kind of looks like Tessa Thompson, but I don't think that's the case. And anyone else, I can't really pinpoint at all. It's also kind of messed up where it looks like they're using his dead corpse as a base of some sorts. Because look how the mouth opens up and they have stairs leading to it. That looks pretty crazy. like for me, that looks really insane. That looks so nuts right now. Um, but yeah, the dead corpse of Ant-Man is being used as some sort of base or hidden fortress or something of the like. So that's really really fascinating there. You get a lot of these like quick moments here. You know, you get a shot of the Deadpool dog, which is kind of cute. I like that. It looks very Mad Max-ish, like Mad Max like. Hold on, I'm gonna play a little bit here. I mean, look at that. This is crazy. And again, it's hard for me to determine or decipher what storyline this could possibly be borrowing from the comic books. Because I'll say this, I'll be completely honest with all of you guys right now. I am not 100% so familiar with the Deadpool comic books at all. I just know what my friends have told me and the little bits I've read. So I feel like this was already after my time collecting and reading comic books. So I don't know what kind of storyline this could be borrowing from. However, I'm just really curious as to who this lady is. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to know. Like, obviously, I believe it's a she, right? It's either she has the ability to control you with telekinesis, or is she like a Magneto and she has the ability to control based off metal, right? So I don't know. It's kind of hard to kind of determine all that. But whatever's happening here, and look, they're jumping through the portal right out of the damn eye socket of Ant-Man, the dead giant Ant-Man. And who knows what time frame they're going into, or what dimension they're going into, what multiverse they're going into. But maybe they're gonna go into the version that we are familiar with, and then that's kind of gonna be like their introduction to it all. Be like, hey, here we are, we're here now, all that stuff. I love this conversation here. First of all, I have always loved this actress. She's also in Fallout, at least in the first episode of Fallout, from what I saw. And she's also very stoic. But I've always loved their relationship. And I love the fourth wall breaking, just talking about, you know, how Kevin Feige will not allow the term of cocaine or any drug related stuff. So I love that conversation that they're having there. I mean, they got the humor down right, which you kind of had to do. You had to make sure that the humor was going to be there, right? You had to make sure that the action, the violence, all that stuff. I mean, they dropped a lot of F-bombs in this trailer. More like mainly from Wolverine himself, which is great. Which, you know, he should be able to do those things and say those things. But I'm very curious who this person is, who this woman is. So yeah, I'm very very curious as to what character she's supposed to be portraying or anything like that. I mean, if anyone out there knows or has an inkling, please let me know. I would love to find out. But for me right now, hold on, I want to kind of pull it in here. I mean, there obviously is a lot of back and forth between, you know, Deadpool and Wolverine, which is to be expected, right? But at the end of the day, I am very curious as to who this character is. Because right now, I can't think of anything. I can't think of who she could possibly be. She doesn't look like anyone that we may have been introduced before. I don't think she is another version of who is that? The character that was played by what's her name in Doctor Strange, in the Strange movie. The And she also appears in Avengers Infinity War. I forget. She was played by wow, her name really escapes me right now. But if you know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. I don't think this is a version of her, but I honestly don't know. I can try looking up the credits to see if that would be mentioned at all. But yeah, overall, this is a great trailer. It's exciting. It's really really exciting, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think it's going to please a lot of the Marvel fans out there. And I'm just hoping that it's going to usher in a new phase that we've been dying for, and that's basically we need mutants, we need the X-Men, we need something new. You know, we need something to kind of refresh the universe and refresh what's going on right now. And this could possibly be that movie to do it. But yeah. So I'm curious, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm always curious what you all think about this stuff because it's very fascinating stuff. And out of all the movies that we're getting this year, and we are getting a lot of movies here this year, this is the only, I guess, real comic booky type superhero movie that we're getting that a lot of people are excited for. So I'm very curious as to how this will perform, how the excitement level is like. Because I know me personally, I'm super excited for it, and I know I have a lot of friends who are really looking forward to this as well. But given that there is that common narrative about superhero fatigue going around, what is happening here, and will people still be wanting and willing to check this out, despite being disappointed with the Disney Plus shows and some of the more recent Marvel movies? I would like to think that Deadpool is still a very strong franchise, given how well received the first two movies were. And Ryan Reynolds still has a good pulse on the pop culture landscape, and he still has a lot of rapport with general audiences, because a lot of his Mint Mobile ads, his YouTube channel. So I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a level of excitement here. And also, who's this devil-looking guy in this one shot right here? Like, who is that? Like, who's that supposed to be? That this guy looks really interesting. I don't think that he's going to be another version of Nightcrawler, but he kind of looks like a Nightcrawler-like character. I don't know. So, but I just love, this is like for me personally, this is one of the great scenes here, just to see kind of like the dead Ant-Man skull just open up like that to reveal that it's like a headquarters or a base or something. That is freaking nuts. I love it. And another thing I love about this trailer too is that, yeah, it gave us a little bit more insight as to what possibly could be going on here, but at the same time, it didn't really give us a lot of the story beats. And I'm sure that's all on purpose. I'm sure they're being very overly protective as to what the story is really truly going to be and what is going to be revealed and what's going to be the end results here. Because, I'm expecting there to be a good amount of cameos. I'm expecting there to be a good amount of, needle drops or mic drops. There's going to be a lot of interesting things that are going to be going on in this movie. And they're going to try their best to keep everything close to the vest here. So even though they're calling this a full trailer, we still don't really know the full extent as to what the story is going to be about. And I'm perfectly fine with that. But I think at the end of the day, we can kind of tell, yeah, Deadpool needs Wolverine's help because the TVA pretty much mentioned that these universes need help somehow. And Wolverine is probably the only person that can help him out. Somehow this Wolverine, or this version of Wolverine that we're getting, let his universe down. And it appears that all of the superheroes have been taken down somehow, right? So they're teaming up, reluctantly teaming up. And they're going to try to solve things. And it does look like Wolverine went through some sort of traumatic experience. This version of Wolverine, at least. And I'm sure we're going to be learning a lot more about that stuff. So yeah, I love it. I dig it. It's great. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, at the end of the day, I'm very curious as to what all of you think about this trailer. Because, yeah, this is going to be some movie when it comes out. And I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, so I'm glad I was able to check it out. Glad you were all here hanging out with me, checking this out as well. So yeah, now that that's all out of the way, because I'm sure a lot of people are tuning in to the live stream. That's the first thing, and probably the only thing they wanted to check out is my reaction to the trailer. And I'll make sure I clip it out too, and I'll post it on the channel afterwards later on today. So yeah, cheers, everyone. All right. So I'm curious as to how were all your weekends? My weekend was very chill. Nothing big. I had on deck. I was really, really, really planning to watch a lot of movies. Two in particular. I was planning to, excuse me. Also, for whatever reason, I have really bad heartburn this morning. It's one of the bad things about getting old is that you have these weird ailments, and sometimes I wake up with heartburn. So it sucks. It's like I have seasonal allergies. I'm suffering from heartburn. My back hurts a little bit. Getting old sucks. I don't recommend it to anybody. If there's somehow some way you could avoid it, I totally recommend you try your best to avoid it. Freeze yourself, in a cryo chamber, and fast forward, 100 years from now to see if they've made some sort of cure to kind of you know, not allow people to age at all. But I was planning to see that new Guy Ritchie movie with Henry Cavill, ungentlemanly something warfare. Never got around to it. Yeah, I ended up being a little bit busy over the weekend, and of course, because I have to do it to myself, despite how much I didn't really like Rebel Moon Part One, I was planning to check out Part Two since it dropped on Netflix. And each time I was very close to opening up Netflix. And even at one point, I did open up Netflix and I was hovering over it to play it. I stopped myself. And I just wasn't in the right mental space to watch this movie at all. I didn't read anyone's take on it. I haven't read any review on it. But knowing what I know from the first one, I don't know. I couldn't get myself to watch it. I couldn't. I'm still gonna do it, and I'm even more motivated now because this morning's I saw a comment on my review from the first one, from part one. Brand new comment just came in, and this person said, "Oh, part two just dropped, and you owe it to yourself to check it out. It's so good." And then shortly after that, this person commented saying, "You're wrong. Sophia Botella is an excellent actress in this movie." And I'm like, all right, you know what? Just because I want to see if this person's right, now I have to see this movie even more so now. Because I love it when the fandom goes nuts about something, and it happens all the time. Like I get it. You have every right to love what you love, and I am never going to tell you otherwise. I will ask you why you love it. If especially if it's something that I personally don't see, like I can't relate to it. I want to know why you do. Because at the end of the day, it's all fine. We all like our own things, and we also dislike other things, right? We don't have to be on the same page all the time, but it's good to have conversation about it regardless. And one of the things that I always try to do is that if someone says that something I like, they don't like, well, why is it you don't like it? And the same thing goes, the opposite way, vice versa. If I hate something or I dislike something and you like it, well, I want to know what made it click with you. And then let's have a conversation about it. But I love it when people have to say that your opinions are wrong. My opinion was that Sophia Botella is a good action actress, meaning when it comes to stunts and action scenes, she does extremely well, and I like seeing her in those things. Anything outside of that, I don't think she's a good actress at all. I don't think she can handle dialogue right. I don't think she has this presence on screen when she's not kicking ass to be considered as a good actress. You know, there are certain boxes she doesn't tick for me. So when I said in my first review, of part one was that I don't think Sofia Boutella was the right choice here to be like the leading woman of this franchise. Because outside of looking awesome, doing her stunts and fighting and shooting and all that stuff, whenever she had her moments of where there was supposed to be emotion involved or having dialogue, it just never worked for me. Never worked for me. And that was just my feeling. But you can't say that I'm wrong. It's my opinion. That's how I feel. If you loved it and it worked for you, then that's awesome. You know, let me know why it worked for you. What was it about her performance that really drew you in? I mean, that's what I would love to know, because for me it didn't work. So I love it when people comment saying, "You're wrong." Like, I can't be wrong. It's my opinion. There's no such thing as a wrong or right opinion. That's why it's called an opinion. So yeah, so for some reason, I have the fire in me now to to pretty much watch this damn movie and to really see, is it better than the first one? Is it worth my time, or is it going to be one of those things where I'm just like, what the hell am I watching again? Bunch filled with slow mo and all that stuff, and it's going to be like, oh, here we go again. But regardless of what I watched over the weekend, obviously this is the moment of the stream here, where every Monday I like to go over the box office numbers. So without further ado, let's talk about box office. Box office breakdown. Box office breakdown. Let's go. All right. So I am here, and I'm hoping that all of you watching on Shorts will have a chance to be able to see this as I pull up the weekend box office chart here from The Numbers. The Numbers is always my go-to website when it comes to all of these things box office related that I like to talk about. So since I didn't stream last Monday, I never had a chance to talk about Civil War. Civil War was an interesting movie that released by A24 that weekend. I personally enjoyed it. I loved that movie. I think it's Alex Garland's best movie that he's ever written and directed. And I mentioned this before, if this is indeed going to be the last film he's going to direct ever, or at least for the foreseeable future, then it's a perfect one to hang his hat on. I think it's a perfect one to kind of like say, this was my final film that I directed. He's not retiring. He's going to be writing more. He has always been a writer. So I love that, and we'll look at the previous weekend real quick here. The previous weekend, basically, it opened up with 25.5 million domestically here, claiming the #1 spot. And it ended up becoming A24's best opening weekend for any movie that they put out there, which is fantastic. I love hearing that. A24 is one of the studios that I always thoroughly support. I always stand behind. It's probably one of my favorite studios of all time. Over like Warner Brothers and Disney and Paramount, all of that stuff. A24 is by far my favorite because I love the risks that they take on their movies and the creative behind it. So I love that it achieved that accomplishment. Now for its second weekend, for it to remain #1, I find that extremely fascinating. And kudos to them for this movie. And to Alex Garland and Civil War. So Civil War ended up again #1 in the box office, pulling in $11.1 million, beating out new releases Abigail, the latest horror movie from Universal, and The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare from Lionsgate. That's the Henry Cavill starring movie directed by Guy Ritchie. Sorry. I haven't had enough coffee yet this morning. So right now, total gross domestically, 44.8 million. This may potentially be on the road to becoming one of A24's most successful movies. If this keeps going and going, this week is going to be another quote-unquote quiet week, because the only big movie coming out this week that I'm personally looking forward to, but I don't know if other people are, is Challengers, the Zendaya led movie by Luca Guadagnino, who I love as a director. If you haven't seen Bones and All, the last movie that he put out last year, I believe it was last year, either last year or 2 years ago. Check it out, starring Timothy Chalamet. Very, very. This director loves making movies about taboo relationships. And Call Me By Your Name was a great example of that. Bones and All is another good example of that. And now it looks like Challengers is going to be another example of that. Plus, it was written by the husband. I believe it's the husband of Celine Song, who wrote and directed Past Lives that came out last year, which is interesting also to think about because Past Lives was about not so much a love triangle, but kind of past love interfering with current love and, asking yourself if you made the right choices, second guessing and creating, kind of like that moral dilemma in a way. And I'm giving such a small explanation about the movie itself. There's a lot more going into it. But if you look at it like from a surface level, that's basically what it kind of is. Now you have in Challengers, written by the husband of this director, kind of looking like talking about the same thing, about a love triangle or a weird relationship. And of course, being directed by someone who is very familiar with taboo relationships or relationships that are not seen by the general populace as acceptable, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens when that movie comes out. But I don't think that is a movie that a lot of people are dying to go and see unless you are a big Zendaya fan, right? So Civil War has a good potential to maybe at least tie Challengers when it comes out this week. Or what I'm personally think is going to happen, it's probably going to drop to second place, and Challengers may be the one to be on the number one spot. That might be what is going to happen here. But it does have that potential to maybe be number one 3 weeks in a row, and I think for A24 that would be an amazing feat for it to accomplish that. As far as global box office for Civil War, it hasn't really had a vast release internationally, so it's only put in 4 million. So I think when it's all tallied up for now, in the next couple of days, it's probably going to be 50 million internationally. But domestically, it's doing pretty well for such a release. Abigail, like I mentioned before, is the latest horror movie from Universal, is in the second spot here, $10.2 million. I'm actually kind of surprised it underperformed. There was a lot of buzz about this movie, especially when the trailers came out. Everyone I know who loves horror movies, they were all excited for this. So I'm actually pretty shocked that this movie didn't do so well. But I don't know the school system or the holiday systems for schooling across the nation. But here in New York, it is spring break this week. So maybe more people you're going to have friends that are going to maybe check out a matinee or a movie. And I'm sure a lot of them are going to be horror fans. So I won't be surprised if you see this tick up a little bit this week with spring break and all. But I am a little shocked that it only opened in second and only pulling in that much there. Dropping to third is Godzilla Kong, 9.4 million, 39% drop from the previous week. Right now, domestically, this movie is $171.6 million. Globally, it is about to hit 500 million, which is a huge accomplishment. And again, it just shows you how anything monster related, especially with big names like Godzilla, mainly Godzilla leading the pack and King Kong, it's going to do well regardless. So this is a franchise that is never going away. And I'm talking specifically about the Americanized franchise of this Godzilla Kong team up. That I'm sure we are definitely going to be getting another iteration here. And from what I heard, because this was directed by Adam Wingard, I believe. I just want to make sure that I'm correct in that. And the director is Adam Wingard. Yes, I am correct. He in his mind, and I think he's mentioned this before, he has had in his mind a trilogy of movies. So the first one that he directed was it Kong versus Godzilla, right? Godzilla versus Kong. The first time that they fought. Now this buddy team up. So I don't know what he's going to have for the third one. Will it include Mothra? Since Mothra made an appearance in the movie, who knows? But it's going to be interesting to see. The other new release, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, Guy Ritchie, Henry Cavill, only 9 million. I'm not surprised by this because I feel like a lot of people weren't really going to be interested in a movie like this. It looked interesting to me, and I still want to check it out, but I'm not surprised that this didn't really grab the attention from majority of those who would want to go watch this in the theater. I feel like a lot of people will probably be waiting for this to appear on a streaming service before checking it out in the theater. We have an anime release from Crunchyroll, Spy X Family, Code White, 4.8 million, coming in fifth place there. Dropping to 6, Kung Fu Panda 4, 4.6 million, about 180 million domestically, and I think worldwide it's pretty good, 480. So it's about to hit 500 million worldwide. So this is another franchise that is not going to be going away anytime soon. Let's talk about Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire went from 3rd to 7th, dropping 24% from last week, which already dropped 65+% from the previous week before last week. Only pulled in 4.4 million in its third week in release. Now think about this. Domestically, it's made 102.9 million. All right. Globally, 176 million. I don't consider this a success for this movie. I do not. Because at the end of the day, if you think about budget and marketing, which includes a lot of tie-ins and deals, it's performing well under what it should. Well under what it should. I don't think they're going to give me the full financials here, but let me look it up real quick, just to kind of give an idea of where this movie really should be. So Ghostbusters Frozen Empire budget. All right. So reportedly, or we're just speculating here, from what we know, the budget for Frozen Empire was $100 million, which does not include marketing at all. Now, every time you hear something like this, the one thing to always keep in mind is if a movie costs $100 million to make, it needs to double that when it comes out in the box, when it comes out in theaters. So this movie had to have made 200 million, but really realistically 250 million if you throw in the marketing budget, advertising, tie-ins, all that stuff. The fact that it hasn't even hit 200 million yet globally is a problem. And week after week, it's earning less and less money. So by the end of its run, it may barely hit 200 million. I personally think it's going to come in under 200 million. Maybe when it finishes its theatrical run, it may be at 185 or 190 million. That's my guess. And that's globally. Domestically, I mean, good luck trying to see this hit 130, if at all. So I would consider this to be kind of a failure for Frozen Empire. And I hate saying that because I am a huge Ghostbusters fan. I love Ghostbusters. But this was not the movie that I think they needed to come back with after the success of Afterlife. It was, and again, I've already gave my review on the movie and my thoughts on it all. And I know there are people who defend it and who love it, but it was just not a well-written movie. And they had way too many people in it. Way too many people. And one of the reasons why I'm going off on this too is because I saw someone on Twitter or X or Twix, I should say, and they were posting their own update on the weekend box office for Ghostbusters, right? And they're calling it. They were saying that, oh, it's 175 million globally. It's doing really well. And I'm thinking, how can you think that this movie is doing well with only pulling in that much revenue? And even someone commented on this person's post saying that when you tie in the marketing, this movie is actually bombing because it's not anywhere near where it should be making. And of course, he came back and said, I think a lot of people put a lot of emphasis in marketing budgets, but I think that's all, bullshit. I think people blow it way out of proportion. I personally don't think so. And of course, when I looked more at the profile, oh, this guy's a Ghostbusters fan. Everything that he does and posts is Ghostbusters related. So I'm like, of course he's going to defend Ghostbusters. What's wrong with me? I'm stupid. I should have known better. You blew it! Right? So, whatever. But it is unfortunate. I don't think, I'm going to be perfectly honest here, I would be really surprised if we see another movie made. I think the best approach here, and I've already said this multiple times before, is the best approach here is to now take this from the theater and put it on a streaming service. Since this is very much within the world of, I believe it's Paramount, Paramount, maybe Peacock or something. Team up with something. There's a lot of rumors going around that Sony is putting in a bid to maybe merge or purchase Paramount. If that's the case, and this is a Sony product, then on Paramount Plus, create a series of Ghostbusters. And you can have these people in it. You can have, Phoebe and Podcast and, the mom and Paul Rudd. Have them still do their thing. But I don't think it justifies doing movies anymore. Because it's not that the interest isn't there. Is that if you're going to constantly have writing that's is what we got, if you're going to have that kind of quality of writing, then I think at that point, you just make it a full-length series. That way you can elaborate more on things and you can have things marinate and kind of simmer more. Because if you're trying to do all of these things that they tried to do in this movie in under 2 hours, things were moving like this. And I was just like, wait a minute. So this guy's here now, but why? Why is she this like that? Why? How come they're now Ghostbusters? We don't get an explanation about that, and everyone's okay with that. Like it wasn't enough, So it's just really, really interesting to see where this franchise is going to go from here. Coming in eighth, you have Dune Part 2. I'm surprised that this thing is still doing well. It's 2.9 million. Because now you can rent it or purchase it digitally online. So I'm expecting this number to constantly keep falling week after week. Let's look at the global numbers here. 695 million. Yeah, so I think my prediction of it not reaching 1 billion is going to be very accurate. It may actually come in shorter than I thought it would. I thought it was going to maybe globally come in like around 800 million. It doesn't look like it's going to even do that. So, but still, at the end of the day, this is a very successful movie. I know they already greenlit Part 3. I know they're working on it. They're writing it now. We just don't know when we're going to get it. Because Denis Villeneuve said, this, he was going to do it, but it had to be right. So it might take some time. We'll see. Let's see here. What else? We have Monkey Man coming in ninth, 2.2 million, 21.6 million overall. A little disappointed in this one. I thought this was going to do much better. So I am a little disappointed that not a lot of people went out to support this movie. I will say, though, this is probably going to get a lot of play once it hits the streaming service. If this lands on like Netflix or Prime or even like Max, you're going to see a lot of people finally watching it, and they're probably going to say, oh my God, it's a great movie. I don't know why I didn't see it, blah, blah, blah. And coming out and rounding out the top 10 here is The First Omen, 1.7 million, 17.7 million overall domestically. Another other things to note here as far as releases are concerned. Sasquatch Sunset has been in theaters now for 2 weeks, but this past weekend it finally went nationwide. So that's why you see the huge uptick of theaters that it's now included, but it's not doing that great. I'm not expecting a movie like this to do well, but I encourage you, if you like offbeat movies, especially like comedy movies, if that is your bag, check this movie out. Do yourself a favor because this movie, for me right now, is probably top 5 movies I've seen so far this year. It was hysterical. It was over the top, very absurd at times, but it's my bag. I love movies like this. You cannot recognize Jesse Eisenberg or Riley Keough in their roles because they're in full makeup, but it was just a very interesting and fascinating movie. And like I said, if those movies are your thing, you owe it to yourself to check it out. It is definitely a movie that I love. Late Night with the Devil 2. It looks like it's going to eventually end its theatrical run here, probably by the end of this week, because now it's available to rent and purchase digitally. This has pulled in worldwide overall to have 10.7 million, but it does look like a movie that was done on a very, very small budget. Let me see here. Late Night with the Devil. Let me see if there's any budget information online here. 10 million. So I would have loved to have seen them make more if that's the case. But there was hardly any marketing involved in this movie too. So if anything, they're probably at best going to break even. But this was a very small budgeted movie. It's playing on Shudder too, so it is like on a platform that a lot of horror fans are members of. So I'm sure, and I see nothing but praises of the movie. I love the movie. I thought it was very well done. So I do think it's going to get a lot of leg. It's going to have long legs now that it's on streaming, and the word of mouth is going to spread even more so now. So really, really glad to see that's the case here. But yeah, that's the box office breakdown there for the past weekend. A lot of interesting stuff. And again, like I said, this week is going to be a little bit quieter as far as movies are concerned, unless you're a big Zendaya fan because you got Challengers coming out. And me personally, I am really looking forward to it. In fact, they're having an advanced screening for it tonight, and I'm going to be checking out tonight. So I'll definitely be able to talk about it on the channel soon. So as always, best way to find out about the movie and things and my reviews and all that is to make sure that you are subscribed with notification bells turned on so that you'll get notified every time a review, a video, or even anytime I go live. All that good stuff. All right. I am so thirsty this morning. And I don't know what it is. I think it's also, like I said, since I have such strong heartburn, um, it sucks. It really, really sucks. Give me 1 second here. Also, I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anyone's chats and all. This is only, I'm still new at streaming both on shorts and regularly, so I do apologize if it's kind of messy. It's not my intention, I want to say. So I just want to make sure I'm not missing any chats here whatsoever. So give me 1 second. I apologize. Okay, it doesn't look like I'm missing any chats, so that's a good thing. Everyone's just being very quiet this morning. It's all right. It's Monday. I get it. All right. So big news drop. on the 19th. The 19th was Friday. I don't know what it was about Friday. There was something about Friday that, for some reason, that was like the day that major YouTubers or YouTube channels decide to make huge announcements. On Friday, when I was live, I talked about Watcher and them announcing that they were leaving YouTube, and they were creating their own streaming platform that is all Watcher centric. And I talked in depth about that on Friday's show. And throughout the weekend, I was seeing more and more people talk about it, and a lot of people are bashing them all over the place. And it sucks. I mean, I love those guys. I also do agree that, and I do feel that they're making a huge mistake. But people were just bashing them in the comments of the video that they put out. A lot of people were not being very kind. It was amazing. It's like the best way to have your fan base turn on you is to make an announcement like that. That one of the comments, and it makes a very important point. What's going on, KD? Skibidabidi, skibidabidoo. If that's what you're trying to say there. One of the funny comments said, "You always talk about building your community, and you're so thankful and grateful for your community. And then you announce that you're abandoning your community by leaving the platform and starting something else." I mean, it's rough. It's rough. But I get it. I understand too. So it was just amazing to see the backlash from those guys. And I don't know. We'll see. I mean, like I said on Friday, I wish them the best. I don't wish anything, no ill will towards those guys. But I do think they're making a big mistake, because it's hard for me as a fan to justify paying, what, $6 a month for another streaming service just for you guys, even though I don't watch everything you guys do, right? Or what, $60 a year? It's very hard for me to justify that. Just for what, two things that they do that I like watching, and one or two things I like that I watch on occasion that they do. And I mentioned this, at the end of the day, it boils down to overhead. When in the video they were talking about, they went from a team of like four or five people to now 20 plus people. Why do you have so many people working with you? That's too much. And I get it. Their videos are very highly produced, but it doesn't have to be. I think people just love watching their stuff because of the chemistry that they share. At the end of the day, that's really what it is. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens when in a month or 2 months, 3 months time, to see where everything's going to be with those guys. I do think they're going to start doing more stuff on YouTube again eventually. But yeah, I don't know. But outside of that, I didn't even know that this was posted online. But separately, Norman Caruso, the game historian, a channel that I have followed and loved for a very long time. This guy makes amazing documentaries, videos on certain moments in time within the video game history, the pantheon of the video games market. He's done a lot of great videos on a lot of things that I really thoroughly enjoyed. And his stuff has gotten more and more intense when it comes to production and quality. I know he works with his wife a lot. I believe he does the writing and the production work. I believe he also does the editing, and his wife does all the proofreading and other things. Now, I know he also hires artists to do a lot of the animations and some of the graphics. But in his latest video, which basically covered the entire history of the Oregon Trail. He actually had live interviews, which he doesn't normally do. So he had the creators of the Oregon Trail doing full-blown interviews in this video. And this video was like over an hour long, hour and a half long. And very well produced, very well done, very heavily researched. I watched it over the weekend. It was on my queue to watch for a long time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Very well done. But I had no idea that he posted something on Twix about his future. So I was really surprised to see this, and it's a long post. But basically, at the end of the day, he's taking a step back. And he said he's not leaving YouTube, but he's no longer focusing on YouTube as his primary source of income and career. It sounds like he wants to explore other things. And because of that, he's also closing down his Patreon so that he is not going to be soliciting any more support from his viewers because he's no longer going to be doing YouTube, quote unquote, full time. He basically mentions that he's going to do it as a hobby. I'll instead of me just talking about it, let's review it here. And I know for you shorts people, it's going to be very hard to see this, and I do apologize about that. I'm trying to find ways to make it better. So just bear with me. If you want to read this more, you could check out his post on his Twix account, or check out my regular live stream where you could see this even clearer. All right, I'm going to read this from beginning. Hello, everyone. For the past 2 weeks, I've been on break, unwinding from finishing my latest documentary on the Oregon Trail. I have to admit, it has been nice. I played video games for fun, not research. I worked on some tasks around the house. My air conditioner needs a cleaning real bad. I've gone on long walks with my wife, Kristen, and I picked up woodworking projects I had abandoned a few months ago. During this time, I've also been reflecting on my life and thinking about the future of gaming historian. While I still enjoy making the show, it consumes most of my life. Whenever I finish up a big project, the immediate thought in my head is, okay, next video. I'd like to get back to that feeling of wanting to make a video rather than having to make a video. There are also other things I'd like to pursue and accomplish, and I don't feel that it's possible while making a YouTube show full time. So I've made the tough decision to permanently take a step back from gaming historian. There's nothing sinister behind my decision. I just felt like it was the right time. Because I will no longer be producing the show full time, I will be shutting down my Patreon effectively May 1st. I first launched the Patreon back in 2015 when I made gaming historian my full-time job. It was a huge help toward not only financial security, but elevating the production level of my content. But since YouTube will no longer be my full-time career, I'm not comfortable collecting donations anymore. If you'd like to continue to support the show, the best way you can is to simply watch the videos on YouTube. I also plan to stream on Twitch from time to time, so I hope you'll pop in and say hello. So what will I do with my new free time? I'm going to keep improving my woodworking. I'm planning on visiting my family more often. I like to finish my master's degree. I'm also co-hosting History Comedy Podcast with Kristen, something we have been wanting to do for a long time, an old-timey podcast coming soon. I do want to make one thing clear. Gaming historian is not going away. It will simply go back to being what it was when I started the show 16 years ago. A hobby that I work on in my spare time. As always, thanks for watching. Norm. So a very well thought out, well written post there. And I get it. I understand. This guy's been doing this for a very long time. And unlike Watcher, he has kept his whole thing small. He's basically kept it between him and his wife, right? Which I don't think his wife was ever involved in the very beginning. I feel like she slowly became more involved as the years have gone by and as the production value has really increased and increased. And I know he teams up with what seems to be a regular artist of his that does a lot of the art, especially like the transitional art or the art that goes over a lot of his talking points and some of the animations and all that. I think he uses the same person for that. And I don't know if these are people that he pays, but I think he has friends that help out with like voiceovers too whenever they're reading quotes. So he's kept his production very small, as you should, really. If you are a YouTuber, the only time you should ever blow up and increase your team is when you're making a lot of money. Like when you're pulling in a big amount of money, then it makes sense because obviously you want to make sure that you're giving back to the fans by upping your production, giving more content, and always constantly improving yourself. I feel like as YouTubers, we are always constantly trying to find ways to improve ourselves over and over and over, year after year. That's just what we do, right? That's why if you see me like experimenting with many different things, it's because I'm trying to find ways to improve the content and how it's being put out there for everybody. And just building the community too. It's like to build a community is not easy. It can be very difficult. So the more and more things that I allow myself to do, the more and more I feel like the community can say, "Hey, this guy really cares about his stuff and his passions. Uh, I want to be with this guy. I want to hang out with him. I want to support him." Right? So that's just how it is. But when you've been doing it for so long, and we're seeing this a lot now with a lot of these old-time YouTubers, people who are taking the step back, people who are deciding to, quit altogether, it takes a toll. And when you've hit a certain level of success, I think there is a way that you can kind of say, you know what, I've done everything I've been wanting to do, and I will be okay now riding off into the sunset, or maybe trying something different. In Watcher's case, again, I hate to be so critical, but from what I heard, they make close to $100,000 a month in their Patreon. And in their video saying goodbye to YouTube, they're blaming advertisers and sponsorships for not being able to succeed. That doesn't make sense to me. $100,000 a month on Patreon. Do you know what that equates every year? I don't, because I suck at math. But if you're good at math, I'm sure you could calculate and figure out that they're making tons of money. How is it that they're not succeeding on YouTube? Doesn't make any sense to me. It sounds to me like they're trying to make as much money as possible to support their 30 plus member team, which is ridiculous. So it sounds to me they're hoping to become another BuzzFeed, right? They're hoping to become like another like entertainment outlet. In Norman's case, he is doing everything on his own, and he's been very successful at it. But he's still kind of young, so I'm assuming that there's just a lot of things that he wants to do, and of course I wish him the best. It's gonna suck to not rely on a gaming historian video to come out as frequently, but you've noticed that they've kind of been trailing off a little bit. I remember there was a time we used to get a brand new video every month, and now it seems to be like every several months. Sometimes sometimes we'll get like 2 or 3 a year, and it's because there's so much work and effort being put onto every video that he does. So yeah, I feel like, when you have him, Watcher, Scott the Waz recently said that he was taking a step back a little bit because he is doing too much. This other YouTuber decided that he's going to quit altogether. We're hearing more and more a lot of people making these type of announcements, and the common thread here is that these are a lot of the early YouTubers that's done this stuff from the very beginning, and now they're getting to the point in their lives where it's just like it's either they can't keep up, or they're finding themselves a little bit irrelevant in this space, or they've had enough. They've done all they can, and now it's time to do other things. A lot of these people now have their own families, and they want to focus on their families, and I totally can understand that as well. Being a YouTuber is almost 24/7 sometimes, and it sucks. It's not for everybody. That's why you see a lot of people, they can't hack it after a while. because it is too much to kind of keep up with. So, look, at the end of the day, I wish him the best. I really hope we get to see more content come out from time to time. That would be awesome if that would be the case there. But yeah, gaming historian, not R.I.P. Just we'll see you when we see you, and that's the best way we could say it and put it there. All right, so that was huge, and I'm glad I was able to talk about that. I'm trying to see some of the other related news here. Oh, this was interesting too, and I didn't know that there was a problem here until I read a lot of things that kind of came out over the weekend. So Blair Witch, interesting. The Blair Witch franchise is an interesting franchise because it was a franchise that was born from an independent horror film done by these, I want to say, group of 3 or 4 people, and it's what really spearheaded the whole found footage genre in horror. And it was done on a very low budget, and it was done really well. I think the brilliance of the Blair Witch was creating this kind of guerrilla marketing plan where they created a website which chronicled a lot of the kind of findings and history behind the Blair Witch and this team that went missing investigating the Blair Witch, and everything that they were documenting and everything that was done, all the news reports and all. They made it feel and sound like it was something that was real, that this was really something that happened. And this was early days of the internet too. So there was no fact checking. There wasn't anything that you can do more investigations of, or there wasn't any video leaks or photo leaks or anything like that. A lot of times when we read stuff on the internet, we almost took it to heart every time until we realized that the internet can't be trusted for the most part. But it was done so smart that when it came to the time to watch the movie, it made it so scary seeing what happened. Because in our minds, we're thinking, wow, this is real. We're watching something that actually happened because this is the found footage of what happened. But of course, we know that it was just a movie and all. It's just more the tone and the feeling that we got out of it. Now, I know a lot of people who saw it too, they said they didn't feel it. But I think a lot of people who came away not being so frightened by a movie like this is because they saw it way after the hype was already said and done. If you saw this before it went nationwide, before it had a wide release, if you saw it, I saw it at the Angelica Film Center in Manhattan, here in New York, the week it was first available to watch. I went with a bunch of my friends, and just like a lot of people at the time, we did all the reading online. We were speculating this and that, and we went into this kind of blind, not really realizing exactly what we were going to get ourselves into. And it scared the living bejesus out of me and some of my friends there. We had one friend that wasn't. I remember when the movie ended, he stood out and he shouted out loud "This is what I was waiting for," or "This is what I paid blah blah for," or he said something along those lines. Basically, he was disappointed. But the rest of us, we couldn't stop talking about it, right? And then they went away from that formula in the sequel. And it felt more like a movie, like a movie, and it didn't have that kind of in real life feeling anymore. And they've tried to bring it back multiple times. They tried to, refresh the whole Blair Witch thing. They made a video game out of it. So I feel like every time they're trying to see what they can do with this franchise. What I didn't realize is that every time they tried to do something, they never really, I guess, included or consulted the original team that created the first one. And I didn't know about that until this article was released over the weekend. So basically, it says here, and again, I do apologize for those watching on shorts. It's going to be a little bit hard to see this, but just bear with me here. I'm here on the Hollywood Reporter. Original Blair Witch cast asks Lionsgate for retroactive residuals and consultation on future projects. The directors and producers of the 1999 horror sensation also shared a statement in support of the cast. We believe the actors deserve to be celebrated for their enduring association with the franchise. All right. Give me 1 second. All right. The stars of the Blair Witch Project have come together with a public proposal to Lionsgate after the studio recently announced a partnership with Blumhouse for a reboot of the 1999 horror sensation. Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard, and Michael Williams wrote in a statement on Saturday that they're asking Lionsgate for retroactive and future residual payments, meaningful consultation on any future Blair Witch projects, and an annual $60,000 grant for an unknown aspiring genre filmmaker to assist in making their first feature film. Why does this sound like a shakedown? It kind of sounds like a big shakedown. I don't know. So, but if these names sound familiar to you, Heather Donahue, Joshua, Michael, these are the same people from the original Blair Witch. So not only did they produce and direct it, but they starred in it too. You'll remember Josh was the one who went missing. And I believe he was the one that we saw at the end of the movie staring into the corner. So interesting there. Here's another quote here. Our film has now been rebooted twice. Both times were a disappointment from a fan box office critical's perspective. They wrote in part, neither of these films were made with significant creative input from the original team. As the insiders who created The Blair Witch and have been listening to what fans love and want for 25 years, we're your single greatest, yet thus far unutilized secret weapon. The trio's post also had a statement from the directors and producers of 1999's Blair Witch Project, including Eduardo Sanchez, Dan Merrick, Greg Hole, Robin Cowie, and Michael Monello. While we, the original filmmakers, respect Lionsgate's right to monetize the intellectual property as it sees fit, we must highlight the significant contributions of the original cast, Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard, and Mike Williams. The statement read, as the literal faces of what has become a franchise, their likenesses, voices, and real names are inseparably tied to the Blair Witch Project. Their unique contributions not only define the film's authenticity, but continue to resonate with audiences around the world. Article continues to say, the statement continued, we celebrate our film's legacy, and equally, we believe the actors deserve to be celebrated for their enduring association with the franchise. A spokesperson for Lionsgate had no comment. So it goes on to keep saying about, the Blair Witch Project, initially released by Artisan Entertainment in 1999, which Lionsgate acquired in 2003. That's how it became under Lionsgate's ownership there. So Lionsgate did not produce or distribute the original movie. Earlier in the week, Leonard was among the cast and crew members from the original film who shared their frustrations over their lack of involvement in the future of the series. I'm so proud of our little punk rock movie, and I love the fans who keep the flames burning, Leonard wrote on Instagram. But at this point, it's 25 years of disrespect from the folks who've pocketed the lion's share, no pun intended, of the profits from our work. And that feels both icky and classless. The full statement from Donahue, Leonard, and William follows. All right, and this is basically, and I believe this was the full statement that was posted on social media. Our asks of Lionsgate, from Heather, Michael, and Josh, stars of the Blair Witch Project. Sorry, I want to correct myself. I said that they started it and wrote and directed it. That I was incorrect about that. Obviously, the more I read about the article, the more it was clear that was wrong. So I want to apologize for that. Number 1, retroactive plus future residual payments to Heather, Michael, and Josh for acting services rendered in the original Blair Witch Project, equivalent to the sum that would have been allotted through SAG-AFTRA had we had proper union or legal representation when the film was made. Number 2, meaningful consultation on any future Blair Witch reboot, sequel, prequel, toy game ride, escape room, etc. in which one could reasonably assume that Heather, Michael, and Josh's names and or likenesses will be associated for promotional purposes in the public sphere. Note, our film has now been rebooted twice, both times with a disappointment from a fan box office critical perspective. Neither of these films were made with significant. This was already something that I read before. Number 3, the Blair Witch grant. This is where it sounds like this is a shakedown right here. A $60K grant, the budget of our original movie, paid out yearly by Lionsgate to an unknown aspiring genre filmmaker to assist in making their first feature film. This is a grant, not a development fund. Hence, Lionsgate will not own any of the underlying rights of the project. Okay. I always support the actors, creative, writers when it comes to any intellectual property. I believe if they do something out there that is being enjoyed, entertaining people, and making money, they should get a cut. Everyone should be involved in that. However, this is going to be my quick hot take on this. It sounds to me, because of improper, I guess, foresight, improper tutelage, improper management of how they put together this movie, they are now backtracking and looking to be now included after the fact. Now, the reason why I say all that is because just reading all this stuff, this movie was an independently done movie. And it sounds like they got backing from Artisan Entertainment. They did their movie. Doesn't sound like any of the 3 stars had any memberships with SAG-AFTRA. Which, if this is their first movie, they wouldn't, because, obviously they have to meet a criteria to be members of SAG, I think, after a while. Lionsgate buys Artisan. Artisan owns the Blair Witch. So Lionsgate now has the Blair Witch project property, and they decided to do things with it. Like I said, they did the sequels, they rebooted it, they did the video game. I guess they've done escape rooms and all that. I don't think they've made any toys or anything. But because it's a property that they own and they knew that it had a moment in time, they're trying their best to kind of bring it back and do whatever they want with it. And now all of these people are seeing them make money off of this thing, and they want their cut. They want to be included. But it sounds a little bit too after the fact. And I know it sucks. But I also come from the corporate world. I've worked in advertising for 13 years. I've worked very closely with a lot of tech-minded folk, programmers, developers. When you sign that offer letter at any company, there's always legalese there that you read. And not every company is the same, but the language and a lot of the things that they cover are almost, you could find them in almost every company situation. Especially if you're a creative person, or if you are a tech person, if you are a programmer, a coder, a developer. Anything you create for said company, by the time you leave said company, you cannot take these things with you. You lose all ownership of it because it was done for the company, thus it belongs to the company. It sucks, but that's how it is. Now, you can argue that point at the time of hiring, and maybe you could work a deal that, let's say, for example, that if anything I create, I want to be able to take along with me wherever I go. Some companies may agree to that, some may not. It all depends, right? Let's look at wrestling, for example. in WWE, any wrestler who decides to leave the company or is fired from the company cannot take their names with them if it was created in said company. Great example is Edge from the tag team Edge and Christian. Edge was a huge name in the WWE. When he decided to leave the WWE, he could not take his name with him. That's why he's now in another company, and he goes by his full name, Adam Copeland. I believe that's his name. Unless there is something you could work with that company, usually that's always going to be the case. The minute Lionsgate bought Artisan, and everything was all said and done with the first Blair Witch Project movie, it is now the property of Lionsgate, and they could do what they want with said property, and they don't have to necessarily include those who were previously involved unless it was written in some sort of contract, which doesn't sound like that was the case. So this does sound a little bit way after the fact, and it does, I hate to say it, it sounds like a shakedown. It totally sounds like a shakedown. It's like, we deserve our cut, and this is what we think we deserve. Residuals, consultation, fees for said consultation, and we want you to create a grant that pays X amount of money to an unknown filmmaker that we're probably supporting, and we're including in on this thing. I would be very surprised to hear if Lionsgate does anything with this, because I don't think they're going to budge on anything here. I don't think there's any legal standing if they decide to sue. It again, I hate to say it like that, but I just don't see this happening, and it sucks. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. I mean, I wish them the best, but it does sound like a little bit too late and a little bit too after the fact. And you hate to see it, but that's basically what happened there. I'm sure it's quite possible the closer we get to Lionsgate releasing more details and information about the new Blair Witch Project reboot, the more we hear about that, then I'm sure we're going to hear more about what's happening here with those original crew. But it just doesn't sound like it's going to be anything that they're going to be happy with, because I just don't think they're going to get anything out of anything. But that's just my opinion. We'll see what happens. Some interesting stuff last week about Netflix came out last week, because Netflix had their earnings call last week, right? And it sounds like things are going well for the most part for them. I think cracking down on passwords really helped the company with their bottom line. It helped grow their subscriber base. They reported that, and I'll just share this here with you, Netflix added 9.3 million subscribers in the quarter, growing its lead in streaming, which is a huge amount of money. And I think a lot of that had to do with cracking down on passwords, and I think coming out with that low-end ad-supported subscription tier. And I've said this in the past before, whatever Netflix does that is seen as a success, expect every other platform to follow suit. And we've already seen it happen. We've seen Prime do it. We've seen Max do it. Hulu, Disney Plus, Paramount. I don't know what's going to happen with them. I think they're eventually going to merge with somebody, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And Peacock, right? Peacock basically started out their service with like these ad tier supported subscription levels, right? So they also announced that, moving forward, they're going to stop reporting quarterly subscriber numbers starting with the first quarter 2025 earnings, because the company is now more focused on other metrics. So now it begs the question, what is their primary focus now? If it's not going to be subscribers, which a lot of that seems to be the leading charge every time when it comes to how successful is a streamer, how successful is a streamer? Is it because of subscriber base? What is it? So now they're going to be looking at something different. The company said the change is coming amid different pricing for plans and a greater focus on revenue and engagement. I have a feeling this has a lot to do with the strikes and what they need to now report in order to appease the actors, the creatives, the directors, and the writers. So it says here, I'm back on the Hollywood Reporter. Netflix will stop reporting quarterly subscriber numbers starting with its first quarter 2025 earnings, as the company says it's more focused on other metrics. Additionally, the streaming giant said Thursday it would stop reporting average revenue per member, which it refers to as ARM, A-R-M. The company had already stopped providing guidance on paid membership numbers starting in 2023. In the company's earnings report, Netflix said the decision came amid rising profit numbers. As we've noted in previous letters, we're focused on revenue and operating margin as our primary financial metrics and engagement, i.e., time spent, as our best proxy for customer satisfaction. In our early days, when we had little revenue or profit, membership growth was a strong indicator of our future potential. But now we're generating very substantial profit and free cash flow. The earnings release reads. What the hell's wrong with me?
You blew it!
Yeah, sorry about that. We're also developing new revenue streams like advertising and our extra member features. So memberships are just one component of our growth. In addition, as we evolved our pricing and plans from a single to multiple tiers with different price points, depending on the country, each incremental paid membership has a different business impact. The company will continue to release breakouts of revenue by region each quarter, as well as the FX. Additionally, Netflix also start to provide annual revenue guidance. We'll also announce major subscriber milestones as we cross them. The announcement arrives amid growing subscriber numbers and profits at Netflix. Again, it recaps about the 9.3 million subscribers, blah, 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 all that stuff. Netflix already has a lead over its competitors in terms of subscribers, with competitor Disney Plus reporting a base close to 150 million. The company's numbers have also been increasing amid its crackdown on password sharing, in which borrowers can be converted to new users. And since they were the ones who kind of saw that, you also notice that Max is doing that, Disney Plus is going to be doing that, so on and so forth. However, moving away from the subscriber metric is also significant, as it had been a focused area for Wall Street early in the streaming wars and can remain so, particularly when profits are not yet in sight. So it sounds to me, which very much reminds me of the YouTube model, engagement is the main focus now. Watch time is the main focus now. How much hours is spent watching a movie, a series, right? What is the drop off looking like? If, let's say, the latest season of, I don't know, Love Island comes out, and people are heavily watching the first 2 episodes, but then the numbers dwindle as each episode comes out. That's a big drop off, right? That means that season probably is not as successful as they wanted it to be. And of course, vice versa means the same. Squid Game, when that series first came out, yeah, it had some buzz, but word of mouth and all that, and you probably saw the numbers increase and increase and increase with every episode, week to week, as those things. Hence, that was a very highly successful show. Why we're getting a season 2, why we're getting some sort of game show. I think it's already out. Why we may even get an Americanized version of it. Whatever. But it's very much an engagement model, which makes sense. And if anything, it leads to better business decisions. Instead of waiting for so long to cancel a series, maybe it will allow them to understand that a series is not going to be successful moving forward. For a movie, I'm sure they're going to understand like what movies to push moving forward and so on and so forth. So it does make a lot of sense. I don't have a horse in this race. I'm not invested in Netflix or anything like that. It's just going to be very interesting to see how it affects the overall numbers, revenue, how it affects residual payments, how it affects the creative behind the shows and the movies, the directors, the writers. I'm just very, very curious as to how that's going to affect everything there moving forward. But it's a sign of the times. It's a switch in strategy. It's a switch in focus. And I think again, you're going to see once streamers like Max, Disney Plus are comfortable with their subscription levels, you're going to see them also focusing on these same metrics if they aren't already. I think Disney is. That's why Bob Iger decided to cancel a lot of shows. I think Max already started doing it. That's why we saw them remove shows from their platform, cancel shows from coming out, cancel movies from coming out. I think they've already spearheaded a lot of these things because I'm pretty sure, and everyone talks in the industry, everyone mumbles and rumbles in the background. They heard that Netflix was switching their tactics, and I'm pretty sure this all led to a lot of that. So this is something that's going to be really interesting to keep watch over in the next coming years when these things start really happening. Let's see. What others headlines stood out to me the most? Oh, Venom: The Last Dance. I feel like this movie is getting moved around a lot. Now, it's moving in a more positive direction, but it's just really interesting to see all the movement when it comes to this movie. But Venom: The Last Dance is getting bumped up as far as release date's concerned. So let me see if I can just fit this in here. Sony Pictures has reportedly moved up the third and final Venom movie by 2 weeks. Originally slated for November 8th, the Tom Hardy-led Venom: The Last Dance is now set to make its debut on October 25, according to a new report in Variety. The move means that the first week of November is free of any major new releases from the studios in cinemas, and there's a good reason for that. What is the reason? The trade puts the move down to the film trying to steer clear of the U.S. elections on November 5th, with headlines of the elections fallout, whichever way it goes, expected to dominate the conversation in the weeks following. Marketing in such a highly political time is tricky, as one NYU course chief explains it to the trade, saying that marketing plans get screwed up when people either legitimately or accidentally read a political bias in something. It was hard enough before people got extremely sensitive about every little thing. In fact, there won't be another tentpole film release for a month after the new Venom debuts, with the next major title being Gladiator 2 on November 22nd, and The Wicked and Moana 2 double punch on Thanksgiving weekend. So that makes a lot of sense. That's like perfectly clear to me. I get why that would be the case. So that's really, really fascinating to hear. That these are the things you have to consider when you're putting your movies out there like that. So we're going to get to a chance to either love or hate Venom 3 much earlier than we previously expected. So that's that. Looks like there's some mumblings or some interesting stuff about Kathleen Kennedy when it comes to Star Wars. So I wanted to check this out. I don't know what this article says, but let's check this out together for the first time here. So basically it says new Star Wars Kennedy and Acolyte talk. Over the past decade, ever since Disney started rolling out new Star Wars works, the fandom has taken issue with the films and shows to different extents. Whilst the writers, directors, showrunners are often praised for successful ones, when it comes to misfires or duds, the target of any backlash is often focused on perceived decisions by Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy. Kennedy herself has also been the target of some parts of the fan base who believe she's pushing a political agenda, and the overall creative problems with Star Wars all center on that as opposed to shortcomings within individual works. This is the whole woke agenda thing that a lot of people are pushing out there. Not helping was South Park releasing a special years ago that satirized Kennedy doing just that. Now, Puck News' Matthew Belloni, on his The Town podcast via The Direct, says according to his sources, Kennedy being dubbed a woke warrior by members of the fan base is far from an accurate portrayal. Quote, Kathleen Kennedy is not that whole South Park thing was. It was funny, but it wasn't accurate. She kind of has to be convinced from everything I've been told. She kind of has to be convinced to do this stuff. And there's still never been a female director of a Star Wars movie. I'm very critical of Kathleen Kennedy, but I don't think she's gone overboard on the diversity stuff. The comments come ahead of the Star Wars TV series The Acolyte launching in June, and series star Dafne Keen telling EW that it aims to beat one of the most celebrated lightsaber battles in history of the franchise. That's a bold statement. We want to top the Darth Maul fight, the most iconic fight, I think, in the Star Wars cinematic universe. It's such an amazing fight, and we were also excited about the saber fights. There's such a skill and craft to it, and it feels so OG Star Wars and feels so impressive when you see it as a viewer. In addition, the Hot Mic reports that Supergirl alum David Harewood has joined the cast of the series in an undisclosed small role. The Acolyte premieres on Disney Plus on June 4th and comes ahead of launches of Skeleton Crew later in 2024 and Andor Season 2 in early 2025. Look, I'm all cool with Dafne Keen being excited for her series. Dafne Keen is also everywhere now. I mean, she was. Let's run down this amazing luck of an actress. She played the young Gamora in Avengers: Infinity War / Endgame. She played the young Ahsoka in the Ahsoka series. She is going to be in the Acolyte now. She's also in the Borderlands movie coming out. And there was this one other thing that she was tied to. She's everywhere. And I get it. You're excited for your series. You're excited for, Star Wars and your lightsaber fight and all this kind of stuff like that. But to claim that it's going to top or beat the Darth Maul fight? Wow. That's some statement. As AKB Mobile says in the chat, that's a bold statement, homie. I guess we shall see. We shall see. But I will say this. Even though that lightsaber fight with Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan was fantastic for so many reasons, I don't think it was the best cinematic lightsaber fight in the whole Star Wars universe. I always go back to Empire Strikes Back, when you had a young Luke engaging Vader in battle for the very first time. Luke, fresh off of his half-assed Jedi training, really trying his best to fight off Darth Vader. And Vader is playing him every chance he can. So much so that Vader is fighting with one hand. Rewatch that scene. Vader, basically, hand behind the back, one-handed lightsaber battling Luke. And Luke is double-handing it, man. He's just like, yeah, my friends, oh! And all Vader is doing is just like, you think you're smart. You don't know shit, young dude. I always go back to that because that, in my mind, is one of the best lightsaber fights I've ever seen. Then you get the two-parter, the second part, going to Return of the Jedi. where the roles start to reverse. Oh, wait a minute. Luke is a little bit better now. He's had more tutelage and training. But Luke also has the rage, and he's fighting off the dark side because he's getting, you have the greatest hype man in all of the Star Wars universe, Emperor Palpatine. And he's just like, you can do better than that. Oh, you're going to let him get away. Don't do that. And Luke's like, yeah, you motherfucker. How dare you? You're supposed to be my dad. Then you notice the roles get reversed. Vader can no longer fight one-handed. Now he's struggling, holding off on his own. And Luke's just like, you chop my hand off, I'm going to chop your hand off, you bitch. So I love the contrast between the two. Those, in my opinion, best lightsaber fights in all of the cinematic. I'm not covering the TV shows. I'm saying cinematic release of Star Wars. Those two, with Empire being number one. But it's a great two-parter when you go into Return of the Jedi there. Fantastic saber fights. And yes, the Darth Maul fight was indeed impressive. And at the time, I was hyped when I saw it. All the flipping and kicking and crazy dual saber. We've never seen a lightsaber like that before. Fantastic stuff. But storytelling-wise, go back to Empire and Return. And those are my favorite. So let's see what happens with this show. Dafne Keen. Maybe you're just a little bit too hyped because you're promoting your show and all that. But yeah, but the main thing here, before I go on, AKB says here, Luke versus Vader in episode 6. Yeah, that's Return of the Jedi, yeah. Then Obi-Wan Anakin versus Count Dooku in episode 2, which led to the Yoda versus Dooku fight. That was a good one. That was definitely good. Those are his favorites there. The great thing about the Obi-Wan Anakin Dooku fight was Anakin gets basically wiped out early. And it's Obi-Wan trying his best to fight Dooku. The funny thing too about that is I think they were trying to mask how slow Dooku is, the actor, because he's older, right? So if you remember, there was this one moment, it was in darkness, and all you see is the light of the saber going back and forth, and you see Anakin, Dooku, right? You just see like that. That was an interesting like cinematic filming of a saber fight that we didn't see the saber fight. We just assuming that they're going back and forth there, but it was just all lights. So it was very well, I guess, choreographed in that sense. I did like that quite a bit. Of course, Duel of the Fates is a great theme to have behind those things. And the crazy Yoda fight was insanity. That was just insanity with the flipping and the spinning and all that. But yeah, you see that you put it perfectly there. It was a chess match. And you could also see how green Anakin still was. Because you remember right before they started, Obi-Wan was about to tell him strategy. He was about to say, all right, and Anakin was just like, YOLO, Leroy Jenkins, just straight up in there. What happened? He loses an arm and he gets knocked the fuck out. Idiot. And Obi-Wan tried his best to hold on his own, but he was really reliant on, this was supposed to be a 3-way fight. Well, a 2 versus 1 fight. And I just lost my idiot of Padawan. So in a way, that's also a great contrast. A great contrast of Obi-Wan was a Padawan to Qui-Gon when they fought Darth Maul. And you could see how a well-trained and disciplined fighter would approach a battle 2 versus 1 versus someone who's a little bit unhinged and not really thinking strategy wise. And I'm not saying he wasn't trained right. It's just he had like this zest in him. He had like this uh unhingedness to him. Just like I'm sure, just like, like we've seen from other people before. But he just wasn't ready. He just went full emotion, which is, again, another sign of the dark side, right? And I remember you could kind of see like Obi-Wan's face, just like, what the fuck? Like, it was just amazing. And then Dooku gets so assed out by Anakin in the movie after that. So much that he was pleading for his life until he gets his head chopped off. Dooku and Obi-Wan playing chess. Damn dummy Anakin playing checkers. Yeah. Yeah. But and this is why I will always say George Lucas can write great stuff. He wrote that. He wrote that those were the things that were going to happen. And to a certain extent, yeah, he also directed that moment, right? And you could see the brilliance in Lucas when you think of that stuff. But I still hold to my stance that Lucas just should have never directed all of those movies. He had his hands too much in everything. And he had nothing but yes men around him. So of course no one can speak up against him. But at the end of the day, he can still create and write great stuff in this world that he created. It's just unfortunately, and now we can look back and we can kind of appreciate it a little bit more so now. There is the generation that grew up as that being their first Star Wars will constantly still love those Star Wars movies. And we are now seeing it through their eyes as an older generation. And we can now kind of learn to or try to appreciate it more so now. I still consider them to be terrible movies, but there are moments in them that still are very strong. Now, going back to Kathleen Kennedy, I feel like this is a lot of hearsay. Who knows really what she's like, unless she comes out and says, no, I don't push the woke agenda. No, I don't do this and that. But it's kind of hard to not think that maybe there is a part of her that is trying to do this. Because there does seem to be a lot of forced representation with stuff that she is overseeing. Not saying it's all bad, but it does feel a little forced at times. And we'll never know the whole story unless she comes out and says so. Maybe there'll be a memoir one day, and we'll all, or some of us will read it and report on it and say, and then maybe in there she'll reveal, yeah, you're right. Everyone was right. The reason why I got so pissed off about that South Park little jab at me is because they had me pegged correctly. So what? I'm a woman. Hear me roar, right? I don't know. I'm just being silly. But yeah, interesting stuff. I am looking forward to the Acolyte. I just want to see some great old Republic type of content that doesn't necessarily rely so much on the Skywalkers or these other cast of characters that we've been following for so long now. Let's have a fresh take on things. It could be good. It could be bad. We don't know. But we'll see. We'll see what happens when it comes out. Alrighty. What else? We're getting to the part here in the morning where it's about time that I usually wrap up. So let's see what I can close out on. And I alluded to this earlier. First of all, just some quick hits here. Zack Snyder is considering 6 Rebel Moon films. Wow. All right. Let's see what happens with that, buddy. Because of the Fallout series, the sales in games of the Fallout series have vastly increased. Very similarly to what we saw when The Last of Us was doing well on Max. So I believe here, what is this? GamesIndustry.biz reports that according to their data, sales of the most recent single-player entry in the franchise, Fallout 4, increased by more than 7,500% compared to the previous week on European charts. For a title that released back in 2015, it found itself to be the best-selling game across Europe last week, beating out Helldivers 2 and EA Sports FC Football Club 24. Amazing. I'm not surprised. You know, that's how you know you created something worthwhile. The data that I would love to see backing all of that is how many of those new sales are people who've never played the Fallout series at all. Because I've heard people who are fans of the Fallout series, they said, you know what? This show was so good, I want to go back and play it again. Or go back and finally finish whatever. How many of those people are brand new to Fallout overall? That's the stat I would love to know. Because like I said on Friday's show, I saw the first episode, and it was extremely well done. It made me feel that I wanted to see the rest of the season. But I don't know if it's going to make me want to go and play Fallout. Because I don't think I have time in my life to add another exhausting open world role-playing game that would take hours of my life away from me. I don't think I can do that to myself. But good for them. I think Bethesda, right? This was Bethesda, right? They deserve this win. Because I feel like they've been slumping for a little bit. Game sales over 7,000%. Is that all versions? No, that was just one single title. That was just for Fallout 4. This doesn't include data for any other Fallout game. Like nothing about 76, nothing about Vegas. Fallout 4 increased 7,500%. Unreal. Good point. They are new players interested in the universe or returning players. Yeah, I would love to know that stat. Really, seriously. The article did say here that the other games in the franchise also made the European top 10. Fallout 76 in 8th place, Fallout New Vegas in 9th, and Fallout 3 in 10th place. But they don't have the numbers behind all that. So, there you go. Good for them. Like I said, I think Bethesda, they needed a win. And it also goes to show you if you can really make a good video game adaptation, whether it's movie or series, if you pay attention enough to the source material and you put a lot of effort in making sure that you put out a good product. This is what leads you to having sales of your properties up in value, up in, significance. Same thing happened when The Last of Us came out. When that series came out, we saw the same stuff happening. But the opposite can also happen, right? If you put out something that's shit, then no one's going to go back and buy shit, right? So I hope, well, you can't really compare because we haven't had a new Twisted Metal series come out, Twisted Metal game come out in quite some time. But when the Twisted Metal series came out on Peacock, You didn't hear any news rumblings or anything about, oh, sales of Twisted Metal, whatever, went up because of the show. I don't know. Can you even buy any Twisted Metal games on Steam right now? Let's see. Let's see here. I am searching on Steam. It doesn't look like you can. Yeah. They don't have any Twisted Metal games on Steam right now. Can you buy any Twisted Metal games on PSN? Let's see. Yeah, you can. You can buy Twisted Metal, the original one, for $10 on PSN. It's also included as PlayStation Plus Premium. So it is available for PlayStation owners. But you'd never heard once anyone say, oh, we saw an increase of sales of Twisted Metal recently because of the Twisted Metal show. No. Because even though I haven't watched the entire season, I just saw the first 2 episodes, I didn't think it was that great. It was kind of funny, but also kind of cheesy. So yeah. And I heard that Anthony Mackie guy is a fucking douchebag. I heard he's very disrespectful to his fans. I heard he's like the worst celebrity out there. So why would I ever support someone like that?
You blew it! Fuck off!
All right, let's talk about the Sony bid for Paramount. We'll cap things off the morning with this piece of news. Yeah, yeah. That Mackie is such an asshole. You're right. Yeah, can't even say hi to someone at a gas station. How dare he? He ruins it for everybody. So okay, so real quick, Paramount they need money. They're kind of struggling right now, and they've been entertaining offers. It's been reported now for like at least several months. I believe there were rumors about them talking to Warner Brothers. I think there were other studios and independent firms talking about possibly buying them. The latest round of news coming out of Hollywood is that Sony is looking to put a bid in for Paramount. Sony and Apollo. I don't know what Apollo company this is, but let's read this article on the Hollywood Reporter here. Sony and Apollo weigh joint bid for Paramount Global. The Japanese conglomerate and the U.S. asset management firm have held early discussions about teaming up to make a play for the entertainment company. Paramount Global continues to hold exclusive talks with David Ellison, Skydance, and Jerry Cardinal's Redbird Capital. Another potential buyer group is considering its own moves. The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed that executives at Sony Corp, including Sony Pictures chief Tony Vinciquerra, have been in touch with Apollo Global Management about making a joint bid for the entertainment company. Apollo had previously made a $26 billion offer for Paramount, inclusive of equity and debt, though it was reportedly dismissed. But partnering with Sony would likely eliminate any cash or financing concerns. The New York Times first reported that Sony talks, adding that no offer has been made, given that the exclusive negotiating window is still in place. The Times reported that one structure under consideration would see Sony and Apollo effectively take Paramount private, with Sony owning a major majority of the company, with Apollo operating as a minority owner. The actual structure of the deal is not clear, though the Paramount Film and TV studios would likely fit in nicely with Sony's own studios. I was just actually going to say that. If there was any buyout or merger that makes a lot more sense to me out of everything that I read so far, this would be it. The reason why I say that now is because Sony, as of right now, does not have their own streaming service, but they have an extensive catalog and filmography from Sony Studios, which also includes Columbia and all that. So you're talking about the Ghostbusters franchise, all the Spider-Man stuff, the Spider-Verse stuff, and everything that they put out there. So to team up with Paramount Plus, they will potentially now have a home for all of their stuff to live on, as well as all the Paramount properties too. So I think for me, just for that alone, that makes the most sense, personally. The actual structure of the deal is not clear, though the Paramount Film and TV studios would likely fit in nice. Oh, I just read that, didn't I? It would raise questions about both Paramount Plus, given Sony's decision to avoid entering the streaming wars, as well as Paramount's linear TV assets, including CBS. There are federal regulations restricting foreign ownership of U.S. broadcast stations, and as a Japanese company, Sony could face scrutiny under such rules. Meanwhile, the talks between Skydance and Paramount continue, with a source saying that Ellison-led company has articulated a plan to deliver operating efficiencies and to leverage the executive teams at both Skydance and Redbird, including former NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell, to help turn Paramount around. Paramount would remain a public company under the Skydance deal. Some investors have complained about the decision not to pursue the Apollo deal given the all-cash offer. Shares in Paramount rose in after-hours trading after reports about the talks were published. Sony and Apollo did not comment on the report. So, the quest continues as to who will be the savior for Paramount Studios. Like I said already before, I do think it makes a lot of sense for Sony to be part of this, because you now just increase your content level on Paramount Plus. And Sony has enough money, I think, to kind of help Paramount a little bit. As far as getting them out of whatever debt that they find themselves into, that is yet to be determined. I mean, Sony has their own debts right now, from what I remember, or from what I can remember reading at least. So, I don't know. I think just as a lover of film and TV and that type of content, I would love to see them merge together so that Sony now has their own home for streaming. If it goes to Skydance, look, Skydance is a pure movie studio. So I could see them understanding the needs for Paramount Studios to get things back on track for them. For me, that makes sense too. But we'll see what happens at the end of the day. This is just all talk and conjecture at this point. We don't know what's going to happen. I just hope Paramount Plus can survive, because I like that studio. I like the properties involved. I mean, you're talking about TMNT, Top Gun. You know, there's so many other things that is under the Paramount umbrella. It would suck to see them go away. There's a lot of rich history there in Paramount. So, and not to mention the Star Trek universe. I mean, that alone, you could tell a studio is struggling when the Star Trek universe alone cannot save them, despite all the amount of Star Trek content that they're putting out there. So, we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and that's the morning show, y'all. Thank you again so much for tuning in, hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed that Deadpool trailer reaction at the very beginning of the stream. I'll make sure to clip that out, because I'm sure a lot of people who weren't able to catch the stream today would want to see at least that portion of it. So I'll make sure to clip that out. But I will be back again live here on Wednesday. Remember, Wednesdays are my nighttime streams starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I call it the morning after dark. The morning after dark. Get it? I thought it's kind of clever. AKB Mobile, thank you so much for joining and always your support and tuning in. And for all the rest of you, either here live quietly on Shorts or on the regular format, or who will be watching on the replay, thank you so much as always for all your support, checking things out. Don't forget, like, dislike, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. Heading on out. Have a great rest of your day and great start of your week. Peace out, everybody. Bye-bye.